Coming Home. Book 4 in the Treading Water series by Marie Force. Chapter 1. The darkness came faster this time, too fast to prepare before it was upon her. Bright lights, the roar of the crowd, the band behind her. 1 minute Kate Harrington was in the middle of a show. The next minute she was in an ambulance being rushed again to the emergency room. This was the 3rd time she'd passed out since a bout of pneumonia had weakened her, but it was the first time she'd done it on a stage in front of 20,000 screaming fans. As the paramedics started an IV and put an oxygen mask over her face, her sister Jill watched the proceedings with big, frightened eyes. Kate couldn't remember where they were. There had been so many cities, so many hotels, so many venues, so many crowds over the last 10 years that they'd begun to blend together in a panoramic muddle of images. When she thought about the media coverage this incident would garner, she held back a groan. The paparazzi followed her every move like a band of rabid dogs. Passing out in the middle of a concert would make for a big story. She pushed the mask aside. "Call Mom and Dad so they don't hear it on the news," she said to her sister, who doubled as her manager and attorney. "Okay," Jill said, pulling out the phone they called her Siamese twin because she was permanently attached to it. As the ambulance sped through the night in the city she couldn't remember, Kate could only imagine what they'd say this time. She'd been accused of everything under the sun, from cocaine addiction to secret pregnancies to mistreating her staff. Nothing was off limits. No lie was too big or too preposterous. Such was life in the celebrity fishbowl. Though she'd gone looking for a career in country music, her crossover appeal had made her a huge star, much bigger than she'd ever hoped or wanted to be. She'd sold more records in the last decade than any other female performer in the world, and along with that success came rabid interest in her every move. The speculation about her personal life had been worse than ever since pneumonia forced her to cancel 2 weeks of shows, which was why she'd resumed the tour so soon, hoping to put an end to the vicious rumors. They'd said she was back in rehab, drying out from years of drug abuse. Her plan to go back to work and shut down the rumors had been working well until she passed out on stage. Now the gossip would be worse than ever. If it hadn't been such a nuisance to deal with, the buzz would have amused her. She was, without a doubt, the most boring celebrity in the history of celebrities. She never went anywhere that didn't involve work. After a few spectacularly public romances fizzled, she'd sworn off men, especially well-known men. When she wasn't working, she holed up at her farm in Tennessee with her horses, her family, and her close friends, few as they were. Of course, boring didn't sell magazines, so they made up most of what they said about her. To the outside world, she was just another pill-popping, dope-snorting, pampered princess who'd had too much success far too soon. The people closest to her knew the truth, but sometimes she suspected even her own family wondered if any of the rumors were true. They arrived at the hospital, and as they whisked her inside, she heard someone mention Oklahoma City and remembered arriving at the hotel suite with Jill and the sound check at the Chesapeake Energy Arena. She recalled asking Jill if they could tour the memorial at the Murrah building, and Jill saying they didn't have time to arrange the security she'd require for such an outing. Kate had been to every major city in America and countless others overseas, but she'd rarely gotten to see anything while she was there. She was always too busy working, or insulated by the security required to go anywhere. This late fall tour had been the idea of her mentor, friend, producer, and fellow superstar, Buddy Longstreet. He and his record company, Long Road Records, had made her a star, and there wasn't much she wouldn't do for Buddy when he asked for a favor. That was how she found herself coming off a summer tour and heading right into a second tour that was due to wrap up on New Year's Eve at Carnegie Hall. Since she could barely lift her head at the moment, the idea of performing at Carnegie Hall in a few weeks seemed as daunting as climbing Mount Everest. Her chest hurt, her eyes were so heavy she could barely keep them open, and she felt like she could sleep for a year. The piercing pain of another needle being jammed into her hand forced her eyes open as a team of doctors and nurses swooped in on her. Outside the cubicle, she saw Jill on the phone pacing back and forth in the sky-high heels and power suit that was her uniform. As she rarely saw her sister dressed in anything else, Kate liked to tease her about sleeping in a suit. Truth be told, she didn't know what she'd do without Jill to manage all the details, to hammer out the contracts, to fight the battles and manage the team that made it happen. Thanks to Jill, all Kate had to do was show up and sing.